What up, everybody? It's Beltway Football, JP Finlay and Mitch Tischler, and boy, that was an ass-kicking. Not a lot good happened on that football field, but I can't stress enough, not a lot of players that are going to matter week one were on that football field. So, like, as much as we watched and it was disappointing, and I think the penalties and the special teams are the biggest problem, my biggest takeaway, like 30 dudes didn't dress. The week one roster will have 53 people on it. That's more than half of the roster that didn't play tonight, including, oh, by the way, a fellow by the name of Jaden Daniels. So is there a lot to unpack? Was DQ pissed off at that podium right behind me, 20 minutes ago? Yes, deservedly so. But, like, the sky is not falling. Let's try to take everything into perspective. We're brought to you by MGM National Harbor. We love it over there. You will, too. Hello, Mitchell. How do you do?
I do. I do better than the guys on the field tonight. That was an ugly showing. It's a preseason game, so you only take so much away from it. But the 13 penalties for 98 yards was as many penalties as they had in any single game last year. The 48 points they gave up was more than they gave up in the 3 preseason games last season as well. It was an ugly showing. I mean, it started from the opening kick on the 100-yard kickoff return for the Pats, and it didn't get much better from there. I wanted to see more from Sam Hartman. I wanted to see more, from some players. But as much as, the final score is what it is, I think you saw some good things. Particularly, I think the rookie class looked good. I thought Connerly had a really solid day. Trey Amos looked good, particularly on that deep ball to Mac Hollins. Bill Merritt looked pretty good in a couple of those quick little cuts in the middle. So there were positives to take away from it, but overall, it's hard to feel too good when it's 48-18.
Yeah, I hear you. A couple things I don't care about are wins and losses in preseason and, frankly, final scores in preseason. But, they were down 14-0, I think 10 minutes into the game, and New England had a turnover. New England turned the ball over. Johnny Newton made a hell of a play. The special teams, to give up a 100-yard house call on the first play of the game is embarrassing. I didn't see Izzo. I would have loved to have seen him. He's a dude that has rate. There are certain football people I've encountered that have that look in their eye at all time. B-Mitch kind of has it. I can only imagine what Izzo was like tonight and how angry he was. But
real quick,
we'll try to start a little positive. Yeah, okay, they all sucked for sure. Yeah. But I'm just saying, the guys going into this game were like, man, I really want to get a good look at. I thought Bill Merritt looked pretty good. Also, for those concerned, I saw him in the locker room. He said he came down hard on his shoulder. He's fine. They checked out his shoulder. Johnny Newton, that's a guy, he's a second rounder last year. You don't think he's going to play that much. I love him making a big impact in limited work in the preseason. I thought Connerly, to your earlier point, Amos to your earlier point, Lane didn't get many targets, but looked good as a punt returner. Showed some real balls. Kind of on a couple of those he could have fair caught and didn't. Real good ball security. Made the first guy miss. Of the people that were out there tonight that I think could have a big role in the regular season, I think they played pretty well. Now, that does not let this team off the hook for really a bad performance. You said something I disagree with, though, that you would have liked to see more from Sam Hartman. I'm glad we saw what we saw from Sam Hartman. What you need most at the quarterback position is clarity, and I think we got clarity tonight. And maybe some will say, don't make too much of an assumption. There's more preseason games. My concern with Hartman has been I don't know that he has a pro arm to throw sidelines. People get caught up on deep balls in arm strength. It's about throwing to the sideline and being able to beat NFL corners that way where they could jump those routes. And on the pick he had, I get that. I think it was Gallup fell down, but he was late on the throw and it didn't have the zip. I think I don't know. To me, Johnson is your third quarterback, and I'd rather have clarity. And I'm sure DQ will say, competition, blah, blah, blah. But I think we saw what we needed to, honestly. Maybe you wanted to go a different direction, but
I guess if you're talking about third quarterback clarity, that's great. When I say I wanted to see more, I just would have liked to have seen more development from him. I mean, he threw the really nice deep ball that whoever it was,
Chris Moore
couldn't come down. Chris Moore couldn't come down.
Chris Moore was terrible. KJ Osborne dropped a touchdown pass.
Right. Both of those were frustrating, but sure, I guess if Josh Johnson's your third quarterback, he's your third quarterback. But we know about the arm strength. We've seen that in practice, but there are quarterbacks that are out there, and I'm not necessarily saying starters, who don't have the best arm strength. Taylor Heineke is a great example of that when he was here. Not the greatest arm strength, but he's able to make up
Who
for
also
it
couldn't
because he
throw the
makes
out.
quick. Yeah, but he also makes quick decisions, and he knows what he can't. It's about understanding what you can't do in the league, right? Like, I want Sam to be more cognizant of what his limitations are, and then I want to see that translate to the field. And ultimately, he's not somebody that I expect to have any impact on this season in any way, shape, or form. But in terms of just watching young players develop, he's one of the guys that I would have liked to have seen develop more.
I do hear you there. I love this podcast. I'm sorry that I'm wearing this shirt. I'll give you an M for Monumental right there. I don't have another shirt with me. It's preseason for us all. We'll figure it out. Polos for preseason. Dude, I mean, the receiving group, you know who had a good night? Buddy Baker. Like,
Yeah.
we coming into this, we said how many questions there are at the receiving depth. And I think you saw them on Friday. Like, especially Noah didn't go, Debo didn't go. There weren't a lot of looks to Jalen Lane. I wonder how intentional that was. He didn't seem to get a lot of offensive snaps. But the way they played Bill doesn't seem like they were trying to like rest these guys. You know what I mean? But the receivers are there's a lot of questions there, man. And Ja'Cory Brooks looked okay, but that was all pretty late. Cager had the nice catch, but Cole Turner had one overturned. Sennett had that penalty. It just
Hey, Martin had a decent day earlier on, and whatever counts for meaningful counts as meaningful. But yeah, the receiving core has been a problem from the get-go. We've seen it during training camp. We've talked about it here on this podcast over and over. Luke McCaffrey having an illness in before the game wasn't great.
So I saw him. Yeah, dude, I saw him pregame, and he looked not. He wasn't limping, or he didn't look healthy. So I buy that. Like he had the one catch on that screen and then went in, and I think whatever it is going on there, whether he stomach, whatever's going on, I buy it. Like, it didn't look great pregame.
One of the things that we've talked about when we talk about Terry McLaurin is how good he is at contested catches and whatnot. And folks like to use that on the negative side and say, like, oh, he doesn't get a ton of separation or whatever. There's also the positive side when you talk about, Jaden trusts him to throw the ball in those situations and he comes up with the ball. You look at what we saw today out of the receiving core, and you saw guys not getting a ton of separation and having to make what would be contested catches, and that just didn't happen. And it was highlighted, I think, in the joint practices when we saw the 2-minute drill and the red zone work about needing receivers that can go get the ball, and that just doesn't really exist in the depth on this offense in the wide receiver room right now. And it's further, its point is made further when we watch games like today and the receivers aren't able to find places to get open. The one guy I would say had a nice day, maybe didn't put up big numbers, Ben Sennett, outside of the late hit on the kickoff, which was kind of a stupid play, but I think he had 2 catches today. Is that correct? Yeah, Sennett had 2 for 10 yards.
Yeah, it's probably Hartman's best play was like a third down pickup to Sennett.
Yeah,
where he actually threw the ball before Sennett was out of his break.
But he looked good. He got open a couple times. He was able to beat his man. The ball didn't necessarily get to him every time, but he looked kind of quick out there. You saw kind of Zach Ertz light, I would say, out of him in terms of like the quickness for a man of his size. But when I say light, I mean there's a pretty big delta between those two. But I liked what I saw from Sennett today. If we're reaching for some positives.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to balance an ass kicking where you lose by 30 and almost give up 50 with. I talked to one of the vets that didn't play as they were walking down the tunnel to the buses, and I was just like, dude, you've been through this. Like, what do you take from that? He's like, you don't take too much, but you do take something, and we know we've got to be crisper and cleaner, and these young guys now have been under the bright lights. Like, now they've played in the NFL, and they can't have the mental mistakes. And I'm not like effort intensity person. Like it's NFL football. Like go see all like the blood in the locker room. But I do think so. It was Tom Brady's statue night, which was really cool, and Vrabel is all about setting a new tone for these Patriots, getting them back to like a professional level of football operation and just a toughness across the board. And so, like in some ways, like not to make like an Osaka comparison, right, with Spurrier, but like I think this game mattered a lot to New England, and I don't think it did to Washington, or they did not. They were maybe not ready for the tone that was being set by the Pats. Vrabel's first game here, Brady walking around, like it was just it was a different level, and that's not necessarily like okay, right? Like you better be ready to match the level of the team you're playing. But this game felt very important to New England, and not so to Washington. My biggest quarrel is the special teams. I mean, you were mentioning earlier, the Henderson house call, then Gibson had a really long return. They had a flag on one. Matt Gay pushes Newton. Like, how different is this game? Newton gets the sack fumble. They do nothing offensively on the possession. And then Gay pushes that left miss from 49. What we've seen from Gay is like his miss is left, right? Like he pulls it a little, and the specials were bad, and young guys are going to play on specials. Like of the 30 that didn't go tonight, 15 of those dudes don't play special teams. You know, like
maybe more than that. Yeah, the Matt Gay thing is we're back. I think we're back in a kicking situation here. I know they gave Gay a bunch of guaranteed money as a kicker. We're in training camp, so you can only take so much from it, but when they're running special teams drills in camp, he's been relatively solid kicking the football. But JP, they end all these practices with situational football. Down by 2 with 2 minutes left, need to get a field goal to win. Down by 6, have to score, whatever it may be. And we've seen Gay be inaccurate walking in what is considered kind of a game-winning kick situation. The last practice there in Washington, he missed 2 45 to 50, 55-yard field goals in quote-unquote game-winning situations. And I would say for the special teams, the preseason games almost matter because those are, like you said, JP, guys that are going to play. But also that's the only real reps that you're going to get against a rush coming at you as you're trying to kick the ball. And that kick wasn't that close. It never really looked online. It wasn't that good of a kick. It just, we were in this kicking abyss last year for most of the year, rotating through training camp and into the season with, who these guys were going to be. And, Matt Gay's a guy who's been a really solid NFL kicker, kind of over the course of his career. But to step in here and struggle the way that he has a little bit in camp and then have it carry over to the field, I don't know. I mean, you think they're going to bring in kicking competition yet? Or you think it's too early for that? Not as big of a deal?
I don't think they will. I think they want a veteran that they could trust, but I don't think they will. You could argue if they should. I saw the Pats had 2 kickers going, and one of them made a 57-yarder that might have been good from 60. So, like, I don't think they will. I think they want to have a veteran they trust, like a guy that's won a Super Bowl, right? Like that's who this guy is. But next week if we get to the Cincy game and there's another miss or whatever. I don't think they will, but I'm not sure you should yet. If you press that button, it's hard to unpress. You're basically starting the carousel in a way. And if maybe you don't want to start the carousel and you want to just see, like, not to equate it, but go back to when they cut Dustin Hopkins, many, many years ago.
Of course.
He had like a rough month, and they finally cut him. They brought somebody else in, and then it was just the carousel for years, honestly.
Yeah.
And
but you look at that opening kickoff. That was a 100-yard kickoff return. They had the other big one that Antonio Gibson had in the third quarter.
I don't think those are on Gay, dude. I think the coverage was bad.
I agree, but I'll be interested to hear on Sunday when we talk to DQ, kind of where they find that. The opening kickoff felt like poor coverage, guys in the wrong position. That second kickoff that Gibby took felt like a little bit of a low liner to the corner, as opposed to if you're, when you're pooching it, you want to kind of kick
you
that
want
ball
height on that, right?
to give the guys time to to get over there. But I don't know. The special teams were certainly concerning. I thought, Sam Hartman completing less than 50% of his balls was concerning.
Do you want to do game balls?
Let's go to game balls.
Feels like we're all right. Game Balls Goats brought to you by Oarsman Automotive of Virginia. They're always steering you in the right direction. Not a lot of folks steering in the right direction tonight. I feel like Game Balls can be pretty quick. I thought Bill Merritt. Now the stat line isn't all that impressive, but his runs were impressive. I thought Revo was good. I thought Amos was good. We've kind of touched on him. Johnny Newton good. Certainly.
Yeah, it's funny because I had in my notes that first defensive drive for when the Commanders were on defense. You had Ramondre went up the middle for 13 yards or so, and it was kind of right through where Johnny Newton was. But then the very next play, Johnny blows up a screen kind of right there at him. He did a really good job. He didn't end up getting the tackle, but that play ended up going nowhere. And then 2 plays later, the sack fumble that Jacob Martin recovered. And so Johnny Newton was a guy that I noted. I was frustrated in the run game in general today. Again, I thought that, again, these aren't defensive ends that are necessarily going to be out there when the season starts, but they didn't do a great job of setting the edge. You saw the Pats get to the edge.
There was no contain, dude. No contain.
Yeah. I thought Jeremy Reeves was good. For a guy with his pedigree to be playing in the first preseason game, you want a guy like that to pop.
Playing a lot too. Yeah.
Big hits. You said Noah I. He had a good day.
Yeah. I wanted to give a goat to the actual goat. Like the Brady stuff was cool, and I went over there and kind of watched it. And then what was really cool is, so Debo and Mikey went and watched it, and I saw them come off, and I said how cool was that? And then I was just kind of hanging out talking to people that and then Kingsbury, Welker, and Izzo went over there to watch it. And for those guys who were here with Tom for various parts of their career, AP went over there to watch it, who was also here with Tom for various parts of their career. It was very cool. And it's also very cool to see a statue done correctly. Like, you can have your quibbles. I guess he doesn't have a jersey number on, whatever, but it was cool to be a part of that and experience it. And that statue is awesome and 20 feet high, it seems. And Skins PR actually pointed this out. I have now been at the statue unveiling. This is total dumb luck. Tom Brady's statue unveiling and Peyton Manning in Denver. Kind of the 2 generational quarterbacks of our lifetimes to randomly be at their events was just kind of neat.
I love that the Brady statue is the base of it is 6-sided, one for each of his Super Bowls in New England.
Yeah, there's all sorts of, what do they call it, Easter eggs? Yeah.
Yeah, Easter eggs.
See you, man.
Ja'Cory Brooks, Tay Martin probably both get game balls.
Good night for your boy in his preseason predictions.
Yeah, not so good for me in those preseason predictions.
Dude, my leading rusher, Felton, led the team in rushing. My leading receiver led the team in receiving. Let's go. We had, $1,000 on that?
Yeah, something like that. My leading receiver, 1 target and 0 catches for my guy, Mike Stretch. Lawrence Cager, I want to give a hat tip to.
Hold on, if I may, for somebody that seems more upset than me about the final score, you're giving game balls out here pretty willy-nilly.
I've given out 3 game balls.
Okay.
I'm not going crazy here. I thought Cager had the great catch down by the end zone.
Yeah.
He then also had the offensive PI, so no game ball there. But I thought I'll tell you what, he caught the ball at the goal line, and I had to do
got his name called.
Right, he got his name called.
B's actually high on him. I think there's some in the organization that are high on him. Can we get to goats? There's a lot of goats.
Yeah, let's go to goats.
And not the Tom Brady kind, the bad kind.
Yeah. This is bad kind. Go ahead, you start us off.
Hartman was bad.
Yeah. Special teams, period, across the board, bad.
Chris Moore, bad.
Discipline, bad. Penalties, not being ready to go at the start of the game. I mean, that was bad.
Also, though, the refs on the Revo roughing call was junk. That was a clean hit. Bad refs. The rest of the calls were pretty legit. That was bad.
Yeah.
He came up to me post game, walking off the field. He's like, "Was that a hit? Was that illegal?" I was like, "No, not at all." And the receiver ducked his head first.
Well, it's funny because on the Cager one, when he went on the offensive PI, that's a penalty on the hit on him in the regular season every day of the week, and at least those things would offset there. That was a tough one. Jalen Holmes, I thought, particularly struggled on the edge as a defensive end. He started on the outside and didn't do a good job either getting after the quarterback or stopping the run. Really, I mean, those both kind of stood out to me. I thought the middle of the offense. I thought the offensive line in general was pretty good. I thought the quarterbacks had good pockets in the run game. I thought that Julian Good-Jones wasn't great. Tyree Phillips was starting at right guard today. I didn't think he looked particularly good. I thought the linebackers. I thought that what we saw out of kind of Kane Madrano is a little bit of what we've seen in camp. You see the speed, you see the aggressiveness, you see the will to do it, but at this point he's a little bit too fast, a little bit too aggressive. The linebackers were getting reached by the New England offensive line pretty regularly, and then you saw them kind of getting a little overly excited in the run game and jumping holes and allowing the New England running backs to get a one cut and get upfield for 7 to 10 yards.
Owens missed a tackle he had to have. Osborne missed a catch he had to have. Viggers got run over. He didn't seem ready for the physicality.
That was an aggressive, what was it, stiff arm, whatever it was on Carlin Viggers. I mean, I think he led the team in tackles. Probably, I think. He led the team in tackles today. But he had one real bad look there.
I'm not sure Dominique Hampton had a very good game.
Yeah, I think he goes in with the linebackers, or if you want to, he's a safety or whatever. But yeah, there wasn't a lot of. There's definitely far more goats than there are than there are game balls here.
You want to get to one thing then?
Yeah, let's get to one thing. Yeah.
All right. One thing is brought to you by Tapped Sports Bar. We're tapping you in with one thing. Tapped Sports Bar, MGM National Harbor. I might go there tomorrow. Who knows? You go ahead.
Yeah, my one thing's just going to be a little bit on the discipline, a little bit on Dan Quinn. We've talked a lot, or I've talked a lot about liking them working on a lot of the situational football during training camp and working on specific situations and 40 and in 20 and also 2-minute drill and all these different things, and to get out there and not be able to run the operation particularly well. We've talked about the continuity of this coaching staff and this roster from last season to this season. To go out there and have 13 penalties in your first preseason game, and a lot of those weren't the effort type penalties. The Ben Sennett penalty on the kickoff was an effort penalty. It was a dumb effort penalty, but it was at least an effort penalty. But there were far too many 12 men in the huddle, false starts, different moves like that, and for a team that is has aspirations to replicate at least what they did last year, if not more, you got to have that operation running smoother. And we've talked about the depth of this team bringing up kind of the overall floor for where it is. Again, preseason game, take it for what it is. The Patriots played their starters, but to allow 48 points and not be competitive really at all, even in individual drives, was disappointing to see. And it's something that Dan Quinn said really burns his ass when he sees guys go out and make those kinds of penalties. I think that's going to be a big emphasis in the next 10 days or so before they get to Cincinnati.
Like eating spicy Chinese food. My one thing is kind of the opposite side of your coin, if you will. It looked terrible. That was a bad effort. The penalties and special teams are inexcusable. But this guy isn't falling, man. Jaden Daniels didn't play. Bobby Wagner didn't play. Luvu, Ertz, Debo. Like, in some ways, sometimes a basketball coach will take a technical because he knows that'll like finally get his guys to respond. I don't think in any way was this what DQ wanted, but I'm not sure it's the worst thing to happen on August 8th. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Hey, you got kicked in the teeth. Let's get back to work. And I thought the locker room had the right mix of guys recognizing they got kicked in the teeth and wanting more, but also like, okay, it's time to keep moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like it. Your tweet after the game was Jaden walking out of the locker room on the way to the bus or whatever, and I think you either said sky's not falling or whatever. Remember, this guy didn't play, and you can think back to all the successes from last year, and so much of that was on the shoulders of five. And just remember he wasn't out there playing, and they did play Drake May, and they did move the ball with their first team offense. They played their starting running backs, a little bit of their starting offensive line. You can take a little bit away from that and recognize that that's important. Quick thing for you, JP, or question for you. You saw the Bengals played their entire first team offense in the first quarter. They looked good against the offense. Bengals offense looked good against the Eagles. The Eagles second team looked great, which is frustrating to see.
Right.
It makes me want to watching that makes me want to see Jaden play in that second preseason game that much more and make sure that he gets some of those snaps, especially with all of the operational things that happened with the team today. You want to make sure that operation across the board with the first team is ready to go come September 7th.
Yeah, I mean, selfishly, I want to see Jaden play. Jaden versus Burrow is awesome. It's fun. Watching it tonight was not fun.
Anytime,
but
I feel it's fun. It's amazing.
Yeah. That said, they got to stick to whatever their plan is, and I'm very much in the camp. If Tunsil's not playing, I don't need a C5 out there. So I think we'll have a better idea. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they're going to try to prep like a real game week. Like the practices are going to be in the afternoons. Like it's going to be like a real schedule. So I think we'll have a much better idea by then what they're going to do. Maybe DQ will even tip his hand. Who knows?
Right. We're back
Sunday.
Will be the next training camp practice. So Sunday afternoon we'll have a pod for you, and then going into next week
at midnight in Foxborough on my fourth night here. I can't really think about Sunday in Ashburn. I'm just
what? Did the residents in the woods not do it for you?
I want to get the F out of Massachusetts. I can tell you that much. Yep, it's the only place I go. I think I might go there right now.
That's wonderful. In that case, let's let you get out of here. And if you made it this far, JP owes you a 8-ounce steak.
Bye.